Thank you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Tim Talks Green Bay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you guys today. It's my first Tim Talk, so let's hope it goes all right. Motivation. What is motivation? How do we motivate? It is my goal today to answer that question. I'm going to start with a story, kind of set the tone, set the background for why I like motivation so much. I did my undergrad at UW Green Bay, and my freshman year I wasn't really involved in any organizations or clubs other than like going to the gym and intramurals and that kind of stuff. Until Kappa Sigma came along. They are the largest national fraternity, and that kind of sparked my interest because that looks very good on the resume, so naturally I joined. And at first I kind of sat on the back burner. I didn't really see myself as a leader, so I didn't really get involved. I think my sophomore year I was elected onto the elected council as grand scribe, which is pretty much a secretary, and that was a pretty easy task. So I still didn't get very involved. Until my senior year, I was given the opportunity to be president. And at first, I was super motivated because my love for fraternity had grown. I started seeing how great a fraternity it was, so I was jacked up. I really wanted to do great things as president. And at first, my enthusiasm just drew a few guys in. They started getting more involved, started helping us out. But my enthusiasm only carried us so far. Then our motivation and participation started to die off. And 5 or 6 of us were doing the majority of the work for the entire fraternity. And those 5 or 6 were all upperclassmen. And that's not sustainable. So I started getting worried that, oh boy, what's going to happen next year when we're graduated? Who's going to run this fraternity that I love so much? I do not want to see it fail. So my senior year, I took a couple leadership courses, which kind of made me reevaluate my leadership style. I've been begging, pleading, just delegating tasks to people. That's not very effective. People don't get any reward from that. So I had to reevaluate how I would be a leader. And I had to think, what motivates these guys to go above and beyond and do great things? So I sat down with each individual brother, one-on-one, and asked them a couple questions. What are your goals? How do we achieve those goals? And I just asked them, what motivates you? Just asking those 3 simple questions, I was able to learn a lot about each brother. And it was a super simple task. I just sat in the library for a couple hours and met with each brother. And I encourage you as a leader to do something very similar to that. If you don't know what motivates an employee, ask them. If you don't know what this employee's goals are, ask them. The benefits far outweigh the cost. So now let's get into why is motivation important. It is important because it allows us to do more complex tasks. I'll explain that. So if I go to an employee and say, hey, could you fill out this very simple form for me by the end of the day? He can probably do that. It's a simple task. It doesn't take a lot of motivation. Kind of like if I say, hey, could you do a push-up for me? You could probably do a push-up for me because it's a simple task. It doesn't take a lot of motivation. Now let's go to that same employee and say, hey, could you please develop a comprehensive marketing plan for next quarter? That's a complex task. That takes hours and hours and hours of work. So this employee better be motivated to achieve that. So that's why motivation is so important. It allows us to do the hard tasks and get more reward from them. So now let's try to imagine, what if our employees aren't motivated? They probably spend a lot of their time at work on the computer, playing games, Facebook, updating their status, or maybe even looking for other jobs. And that's just one employee. Imagine if you had an entire department like that, even half an department like that. Your productivity would be awful. But now I'll try to imagine the same department with 95% of the employees motivated. You're probably doing great things. You're probably setting records, meeting sales quotas, whatever the case may be. So now start thinking, how do we motivate people? Well, there's a few different ways to go about this. Short term, just better communication. Walking around the office in the morning, afternoon, just asking your employees, hey Jim, how's your weekend? Hey Pam, how are the kids? Just that kind of stuff. That goes a long way with the employees' morale That shows that you're actually invested in their life and you care about them more than just their performance at the workplace. And then more long-term goals is, like I said before, you have to figure out what motivates your employees, how they are rewarded, either internally or externally. That brings us to intrinsic and extrinsic value. Intrinsic is the value somebody derives internally when they achieve a task. For example, let's go back to my fraternity. Let's take Kevin for an example. He is intrinsically motivated, meaning if he achieves a task, he feels satisfaction just inside. He doesn't need external rewards to satisfy him. Now let's take George for example. He's extrinsically motivated, and he's just in the fraternity party. He's not going to get the same satisfaction for completing the same task as Kevin will, because he doesn't really care. He doesn't have any internal satisfaction for completing a task. Does that mean that George is useless? He doesn't belong in your team? No, of course not. But getting George to be motivated takes a little bit more work. You need to figure out what motivates George. Like how do I reward him for doing the task? So that could be either money off dues, less community service hours, whatever it is. So now let's take it into the professional workplace. You have this employee who is internally motivated. He's intrinsic value. He will probably achieve a task just because he wants to see the company succeed. And you need to recognize that. And then you have this employee. She's not she doesn't really care too much about the company. She's just there for the paycheck. So if you want to motivate her, you say, hey, if you complete this comprehensive marketing plan by the end of the month, you will get a bonus of $5,000 or a couple extra days of PTO. It's just taking the time to realize how these people derive value. But use that, the $5,000 bonus for completing this task as a reward. Use that sparingly. Employees can easily take advantage of that. So it's just being conscious of, okay, so if they complete this larger task, I will give them this reward. But if they just complete this smaller task, I'll praise them. I'll say, hey, nice work, keep it up, and there's great things in your future. Just kind of stuff like that. Be their cheerleader. You don't want your employees to be taking advantage of your motivation tactics. Now let's talk about reinforcement theory, which is a way to modify behavior in the workplace. There's 4 ways to do this. First is positive reinforcement. Second is negative reinforcement. Third is punishment. And fourth is extinction. An easy way to understand this is positive reinforcement is you get a positive for a positive. Negative reinforcement is you get a positive and you take away a negative. Punishment is you do a negative and you get a negative consequence for it. Extinction is you repeat that, or you get that negative behavior and you take away a positive behavior. For example, positive reinforcement, let's say a salesman meets their sales quota for the month and they get a couple extra days PTO. And now let's take negative reinforcement. That same salesman meets that sales quota, so you take away a negative consequence that they would not do, that they do not want to do. For example, you take away their Monday morning meetings that nobody wants to go to. Punishment is pretty self-explanatory. They do not meet their sales quota, so you punish them with demotion or coming in on a Saturday or something like that. And extinction is they do not meet that sales quota, so you take away the end of the year bonus that you would regularly get if you met your requirements. That wraps it up for today. Thank you for listening today at my first Tim Talks. Hopefully it went all right. And I hope you can take some of these tactics that I taught you back to your workplace and probably motivate your team to achieve great things. I'm Bryce Buboltz, and I thank you.